All right, good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 31st episode of our first run on YouTube through Book of Hours. And of course, the Twitch streams are starting to catch up in terms of the overall series. So for those of you wanting to see a little bit more progress, you can see those as well. And there was a lot of talking in the previous episode, all I think for good reasons, because this world is just too interesting to sit by without comment. But I do want to make a little more progress. However, off the top, I did just want to say I've been a bit, just in terms of, busyness and trying to make sure everything gets done on time. I did fall behind on some of the comments, and the popularity of the game created a little bit of a difficulty in the sense that for at least that initial burst, it was creating a kind of tone which I really wasn't all that accustomed to for a very long time, particularly from the Secret Histories crowd, and it was becoming less enjoyable in some cases. Not everyone, and again, I want to focus more on praising the good rather than the bad, but it is definitely something that was contributing to sort of triaging the comment time to certain periods rather than sort of looking at them right away. But I do think with some time from release, sort of that initial burst is there, and you'll probably notice in terms of the viewership, the things have gone down a little bit. I don't think people care too much about people's metrics. That's something I should be worrying about, not viewers. But one of the nice things about that is it is a reflection of the people who do like my stuff sticking around, and the people who don't care for it, maybe spending a bit less time trying to change me into something that I'm not, and more just moving on to something that's more fitting for them. And again, this is the way it should be, right? I'm not for everyone, and that's something I'm gonna have to deal with in terms of if it costs too much to make videos or whatever. This is what any small business owner, for lack of a better term, needs to come up with, right? If you don't like getting up early in the morning, maybe you don't run a coffee shop. Would be an example I'd think of, but the big thing that I wanted to focus on was not so much to talk about the past so much as lately, because in between recording these videos even, I've been getting some really lovely replies in the comments. And so, it is one of these things I do want to take some time to say thank you for. I know these videos are always going to have a lag between the time in which people in which I express the feeling and then it comes out later. And sometimes things happen in reverse. So I'll say thank you for one thing only to have that thing happen just a couple of days later, before that episode's ever come out. But honestly, it never hurts to say thank you, and I don't feel that there should be an expiry on those thank yous. So for the last little while, a lot of you have been offering some incredibly nice comments about the videos, and I care about that a lot, and I take the time to think to say it, because I know it is not normal to leave comments on videos just to say I like your stuff, right? I don't do it. I should do it more often, and so knowing that people care enough to be able to do that also indicates to me that there are more people who like the stuff and don't say that, and that's totally fine. Like, that's the way I watch, so that's not a request. That is a thank you to those of you, and also an acknowledgement that if you're watching, especially if you're watching till the end, it's clear that this is doing something for you, and it's always nice to take a minute to acknowledge that, which I have now done. But I also want to deliver on this stuff that at least a reasonable number of you are saying is worth watching. So we are currently reading a number of books. I will read the introductory text for the books, but maybe as they as they sort of emerge. And then the other thing that I want to do is recover my core. It might be a little too late for me to get it back in time, but essentially what I want to do, now that we have access to a whole bunch of books, and we are ultimately going to be doing just a lot more with the Elements of the Soul, not just in terms of accessing new parts of the house, but also in terms of, reading books, opening packages, just in general, there's going to be a lot more activity running around. I sort of want to come storming out the gates and make sure that we have what we need when we need it. Okay, that foresight's going to be great. So it's still helpful to us to read Ava's treasury just so I can be sure what I'm working with, but no reason not to use the metal here. So talk to Mrs. Kill. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. Now Ambrose's desk is occupied, so I may be short on what I need for Forge. Yeah, I think I've used up too many desks here. Lady Ava's desk definitely won't be a Forge one. So I think I'm going to have to be patient. Something I'm not very good at being in this game sometimes. Actually, I guess if I had an edge, I could work with it, but I think the problem here is transformations and liberations is my only real... No, Anbury and Lapidary? Yeah, it's hard for me to see how I would... Yeah, I need the 6. So we'll wait for Ambrose's... Actually, Ambrose's desk is going to be tied up for a while because of that shaft. I should have used the Vagabond desk. Drat. Well, if I'm going to... Right, so I don't need to worry so much about the desk because I'm not going to be using... I'm not going to be using the mortar and pestle. So I can just use consider for that. It's kind of grim, but I'm going to stick with it. So Journal of Walter de Wolf. And this happened, I've been sitting on this for a while. So this'll involve another detail. In fact, we'll deal with that now. So Walter de Wolf, 3rd Baron Brandkrug, was grandson of Thomas, son of the disgraced Giles, who eloped with Pale Hafren. The de Wolf line might have ended here if Seneschal Ernestine, by then over 80, had not managed to reconcile Thomas with a dying Giles. So, of course, we now know who the 3rd Baron Brandkrug is. We, of course, could have clicked on this and checked it out at any point. But one of the rules I like for the bookshelf, for the staircase is where I can, and I'm sure there are going to be some cases where I need to sort of revise some of this stuff, but where I can, it's nice to just have the smoking gun and deal with the smoking gun at the time. So I kind of saved this for when I was reading it. So there's our dear friend Walter. The bust is carved from serpentinite, a striking local stone. Lots of things I'd like to use these elements of the soul for, but let's take care of our most immediate needs. Okay. Ava's Treasury. Ava de Wolf, last of the Brandkrugs, discusses the occult and aesthetic properties of jewels and other precious minerals. Black nephrite and scolasite for nowhere, orchalcic and amber for yeas, amethyst for the night key of the spider door. Ava points out, bitterly, that there is no shortage of uplifting parables and proverbs about the saving graces of a flaw in a jewel, but that no one, not jeweler, nor priest, not hour, has ever found a way to repair such a flaw. And that does indeed give us foresight, so that's going to be helpful in terms of future Forge texts. Okay, so I have a little while to wait for the moth that I need, but we're going to get some healing in soon. Okay, a true and complete accounting of the Asclepian mysteries of the roots of the house. Descriptions of the Asclepian mysteries, reproduced by one Riley Gressa from supposedly a much older text. It's unlikely to be genuine, but it makes a reference to the house without walls and its wood right there in the prologue. This is very obviously not an antique text, at the very least it has been badly mutilated, but it contains substantial intriguing material, especially a persuasive comparison of the house without walls, without doors to the human body, with its many portals. The direction of death is down, the book explains. The peacock door is considered a rent or an abrasion, but in some respects it is more like a mouth, if not a more treasured point of entry. Discussions of doors include a rite which may conjure creatures through those doors, although key incantations are missing. Sorry, did I say impulse? I I know I've mistaken the memory. Well, I've misspoken. Like, I know the memory that I'm looking for. I'm specifically looking for the moth here, but I feel like I've gotten this wrong a couple times. And you know what? I think I'm actually short on... Oh! Oh, dear. I didn't even think of that one. Okay. So I originally wanted to go to librarian's quarters, but I need moth. Well, that wasn't really well considered on my part. Okay, so let's decamp. Hush House is a mansion of many rooms. I'll move to a different one, or add other cards if you'd like to try something else. Nope, we want to heal. There it is and can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. Alright. Clearly, I did something wrong here. I forgot to add sights and sensations. This is going to be a tough one. So Awen, extra soul effort, and stuff also things. So I don't think elements of the soul help me here. I think I'm gonna be okay, but man, I really messed this up. Yeah, I think I was actually supposed to read the Ava book. All right. There's still a chance. Fiddle with something here. Increase relevant aspects by using a thing. Now, I am actually slightly curious if I lose the Hush House key doing this, so I'm going to add it here. There could be other things, but in this case, the key is helpful. All right, gathered my belongings. Refresh the sheets for any guests I might have. Ready to move on. So I think I'm going to need to pay up to refresh. No, I actually just need to use moth. Now, that would have been good for the Fett. Okay, so let me just think this through. Sacralamea will be sufficient if I use... Yeah. I'll make this my lodgings for the time being. I can't believe this. That's the second one that I made this mistake for. Fortunately, the memory is going to help me out as well. So that's two separate cases where I didn't put the memories in, and I got lucky. Or the skills in, and I got lucky with the memories that I generated. Alright. Those indignities perpetrated by the deceitful fraternity of Obliviates. It's not clear whether CROD, who identified only by his initials, was in fact an initiate of the Obliviate Order of Immortal Adepts. He wrote in the 16th century after the order, if he is to be believed, had passed the height of its power. 58. That they did claim inheritance from the traditions of the House of Leith, but that they have disregarded both the most sacred and the most beautiful ceremonies where they are not found convenient. 59. 71. The Glassfinger toxin is no mere assassin's convenience for the Oblividiots to confine to the disposal of their enemies. It has higher uses. Certainly, it is a great matter of winter, but I have already outlined the technique by which it may be fitted for its ultimate destiny. This is a little bit of a hint, by the way. So, Ragged Crossroads... and contradiction. I believe that is in fact the first contradiction. So let's put that... I feel like this is a lot of shelf space to be given up for this, but... Okay, and I don't believe we have Ragged Crossroads yet, so that'll be one that goes in the consider verb, but of course it's currently being occupied by something else, so... There's still a chance. Alright, by their marks ye shall know them. A monster hunting initiate of the hour named the Colonel, who identifies herself as Little Sophia, provides advice on finding the weak spots of Long. Little Sophia observes dryly, should one desire to slay an immortal, it is most practical to do so before they become immortal entirely. She details the marks, the changes that Long undergo as they abandon their mortal condition. As the lantern Long begins to abandon its flesh, its skin becomes loose, its bones soften. The sixth mark is observed thus, when the flesh between the finger and thumb can be pulled to the final finger joint. So that gives us a pattern. I think that's another new one for us. And surgeries and exsanguinations, which we do in fact already have. So that one I'm going to need heart or knock, and in fact my sickness may be useful here. Excuse me. Alright, we're making some progress. Alright, so that's the I mean, the funny thing here is if I tried Ambrosial with the proper collection, in theory I would have gotten it, but there's absolutely no value in thinking along those lines. Okay, gossip doesn't really do anything for me, but clearly Mrs. Kill's memories are going to be very helpful here. So Mrs. Kill has seen a lot more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. And we will be using the pattern with surgeries and exsanguinations, but it's not yet clear to me that I need to use anything else. Kindled flame. Alright, Walter de Wolf, 3rd Baron Brankrug, was grandson of Thomas, son of the disgraced Giles, who eloped with Pale Hafren. The de Wolf line might have ended here if the Seneschal Ernestine, by then over 80, had not managed to reconcile Thomas with the dying Giles. Walter, though nominally siding with the parliamentarians, manages to stay out of the war, but in 1642 his son Brian runs away on the night of his 16th birthday and joins the royalist army. He is captured and returned to his father, who pleads for mercy and gives his parole for his son's good behavior. In 1648, Brian runs away again to join the Royalist uprising. Walter writes of news that Brian has been seen on the field of battle at Gear Camp, but that his fate is yet unknown. Walter writes one last entry about his fear for his son and the future of his family. There the journal ends, but the extensive account of Walter's collaboration with the architect Gregory Wheelock includes usefully esoteric information. So, that's a door and wall lesson. That's going to be, forge and knock, so I'm going to need to get the shaft back for this. Okay, well, that's not a hardship. And we do also know from our time with Aver's Treasury, we can add the Journal of Walter de Wolf to that. Alright, so there's a little bit of balancing to do, but we're in much better shape. So we will grab the shaft for our update. So rest and refreshment. Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal and a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. So we'll spend the 6p. It is autumn when the leaves rustle, and the silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. Let's lock in the lessons here. So acquire Ragged Crossroads. Use this lesson to acquire a new skill. Okay, there it is and can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there is scant trace of the continent in her accent now. Probably overkill in terms of the memories here, but I'm not going to complain about having more to do. Golokosophy will unchain my Arab. Alright. Attunement fulfilled. The skill has already been used to evolve an element of the soul. So, pride, compassion, hatred, and fear. This now gives us 3 grail and 2 edge. So, helps us a little bit. It's not the last word on this stuff, but it is. You're going to be surprised the number of ways that this winds up making the difference in the house. Another leaf on the Tree of Wisdoms to understand why 4 paths were not taken. Alright, next up, let's use surgeries and exsanguinations. And for that, so Doranwall wants a forge or a knock. We have plenty that we could provide here, so I suppose it's really my choice. We'll use pattern. There's always more to learn. Okay, that's another 30 seconds spoken for. I'm going to need to pour a glass of water, so let's get that dealt with now. Serve here. Plates, cups, glasses, so that if I want to offer someone wine, I needn't give them the whole bottle. Pour out. Pour it out. Wonder if I can fit that on the desk. No, I cannot. So again, the memories are the first priority. We can always unlock, we can find uses for these later. Alright, this place, this is a safe place for me now to the extent that dreams are safe. So I should just be able to recover this without any extra effort. Cure my malady. You've supplied enough moth. 3 minutes is a lot to ask around this time of the day, but we might get lucky. And, yeah, we're waiting on our shaft with door and wall. So we have 2 elements of the soul to work with when all is said and done. I think probably the best way to do this, I can use my Arab to get another earth sign. And then I'll probably use the Foss to make some money, because we are going to be hiring Reverend Timothy and Denzel before too long. Or at the very least, we'll be going back to the Sweet Bones to for some R&R. Although that's silly. I should be using my Faust for more interesting things. Alright, this skill is now level 2. Its power aspects have also increased. We know we'll be leveling up door and wall in just a bit. Alright. Better now. Again, it doesn't really matter which of these I sort of throw in with. There's always more to learn. Improve the skill to level 2. Yeah, I think probably I'll use, as much as I'd like to make a little bit of money, I think I'm just going to use the Foss to open up one of these packages. And then we can figure out where we're going at the start of tomorrow, especially because I believe that should be the first day of winter. I'll still generate the memories for Mrs. Kill because it doesn't hurt, but I can't really see a lot of uses. I do, of course, have the option of committing more. So between surgeries and exsanguinations and door and wall, I do have the option of committing more things to the Tree of Wisdoms with those level 2s, but it's a bit harder for me to make the case that these are essential, right? I have so many things that I want to do now as a result of the elements of the soul that I've got, that I don't have the same sort of Like, basically, you don't have that same sort of feeling of, why am I doing this to myself, when you're sitting there on like 4 or 5 different knock texts and you don't have a shaft. Like, at this point here, it's a question of getting through those texts in a way that still allows you to make the most of those memories. So yeah, there's some sense in terms of doubling things up, especially if it comes to things that are committed. You know, so if I've got something I can work with in Nyctodromy, Hushery, Ithistry, these are definitely ones that, you know, I want to keep an eye on, but they're not all hands on deck. And I am definitely biased towards trying to go as far down Bosk as I can. All right. Let's open a package. Contraband Jetsam. Move through this overboard. So I can do a little bit of tidying here. So Locksmith Stream Trespasses is definitely an example of something that's well within our abilities now. Demotu Corporum Veditorum I don't think is one of those. Night has fallen, dawn will come soon. So I think we're just shy of where we need to be on curing the malady, sadly. But we'll definitely have our Fost back. And the worry about the heart isn't quite as big as it used to be. So yeah, it won't be available to me tomorrow, but I already have a core, so. All right, and ambergris chunk. Never, never, never call it whale vomit. Go here for now, unless I want to put it in Christopher's Nook. I feel like we've gotten something like that before and didn't have an idea of where to put it. Okay, a new season. What's happening in the world beyond Brandkrug? What visitors will the season bring? So let's see what the day brings. I don't think I'm going to make too much progress in the day. Oh, snow. All right. Yeah, so I think I'm going to lay out the plan for the day. We have lots of options. So, the brass ring right now would be Etery after. Let's see what we could try and accomplish with that. So, there's a gap here. Oh, right, Sacralimea. Okay, so well, Sacralimea isn't going to have relevance to my winter, so you know, there is something kind of disappointing about the fact that I still only have a single level winter. Okay, so in terms of the skills and such, we're still stuck with 3, but I guess we go up to 6 now. All right, so yeah, it's actually, this is quite a bit more deflating. Well, we have on the white. Okay. You know what? No. I'll save this. But yeah, we will read on the white. I will save this for the next episode. So the on the white will be how we handle the snow. The other alternative would be to go for sky. The thing is, I don't think our sky is as good as it seems. I think basically we're using the same skill here with sights and sensations. And there might be there might be a couple things I can do memory-wise, but let's see the reasoning all the way through, right? So we take the snow, we add sights and sensations, that brings me up to 5. We bring the astrolabe, which brings me up to 6. So it's like, oh, well, this is very promising. But then we remember that Fost only gives me 1 sky, so that brings us to 7. Well, are there 7 sky texts? None that I've seen yet. So really what we're working with here is about the same limitation as Whist. So yes, it would be wonderful to read one of these higher level sky texts, but we know that we have a 4 sky event that can come later. Whereas winter, this is about as good as it gets. And so in my mind, that promotes a high level winter. So that's at least the Wist spoken for. The other possibility, of course, with the snow is, just we take a look at the kinds of winter challenges that we can overcome. So like, with 9 winter, you'd say, well, if we get Mr. Kill, and then we give him the Wist, so that brings him up to 4, and then we add the snow, well, that brings him up to 7, so now we only need to find 2 winter. I think Eigengrau only gives the 1, but the Pale Marrow would give another one. And then, of course, we have Solomon's Preparation. But in the end, I sort of feel like this is a little early for me to be using snow to unlock parts of the house. 6 winter is not that challenging to get. And in fact, I get Mr. Kill for free. So that's another bonus. What I think I'm probably going to do here is I'm going to boost up Denzel because we have pretty ready access to... well, I guess it's Denzel or Reverend Timothy. I guess I need to pick because the Dandelion Wine... No, Dandelion Wine is 2 nectar, not 2 lantern. But the coffee would give us more. Anyways, it's either way. I have access to someone I need to be able to get to the Windprowl Gallery. We'll probably save the Despoiled Laboratory for a separate time. And then once I sort through some of the texts that I'm going to work with, I think what I might do is try and make an ink for the Rattling Bridge, because that will give me access to more texts. But it would be such a shame for me to spend all of this effort gaining these different elements of the soul and then not use them to read my existing collection. Even if there are some more challenging texts that I'm not quite able to handle yet, I at least want to clear through what I have already. So for instance, Locksmith's Dream should be something that I use my Shapt on, rather than, say, get Reverend Timothy. But again, all of that's for a separate conversation for another time. Thank you again for everybody for watching. I hope you're as excited for the progress on this as I am. I mean, I'm kind of going over stuff that I've already done so far, but this is actually the first time since the beta that I've had this much in terms of the ability to do things over the course of the game, right? In this case here, I've got, I believe, 10 separate soul cards that I can use to take actions. So basically, when I played the beta, I would have more elements of the soul. But since the basically streamer version of the game, I've kind of had this weird tendency to minimize the number of elements of the soul, which of course has made me very careful in terms of how I approach different challenges. And now I'm sort of spoiled for choice. I may actually find that I don't know what to do with all of these elements of the soul, but it's going to be a very different way of playing, which I really haven't experienced in months. So again, hopefully that enthusiasm's coming across, but one way or another, we have one more episode for us this week. That's definitely going to involve reading some books. So we will see you in the next one. Take care.